This is Susan Bradley for AskWoody.com, and this is Task for the Weekend, February 27th, 2021. There's a command that I use quite a bit in my computing, and it's the command ipconfig/all. It gives a full configuration of the system of the TCP/IP stack, meaning my network address, what the system is talking to in terms of the settings, and I'll show it to you in just a bit. So out here at a command prompt, I type in ipconfig/all. And after it scrolls by, I usually roll it back, because usually when I have a computer, I may have one or two different connectors, and I may also have a VPN connection. So you scroll up until you find your connection. And this is a hardwired computer, so it has a Intel Ethernet connection. And you can see right here, this tells me I have what's called a 192.168.1 dot, and then there's a number behind that network. My router here at home assigns me that address. And most consumer-based routers are in a 192.168. Yada yada sequence. When you're looking at the TCP/IP4 octets, you have 3 digits, a dot, 3 digits, a dot, and 3 digits. Now, you only see 1 digit here, but it's really .001. Now, there's something called the subnet mask. And what that does is it says you're only going to match up with computers on the system that match here. That's what that 255 means. It means it matches. You're going to match anybody on the same network that's a 192, a 168, a 1, and then I'll talk to anybody else on the network that's in that range. The next line down tells you when the lease was obtained. Saturday, February 20th. And when the lease expires, normally in a network, even in the router, it has what's called a DHCP, dynamic IP address, that hands it out usually about once a week. And then it releases it and you get a new one. This is always your hint of what the IP address of your main router is. Now, normally in a home setting, that number is typically 192.168.1.1. In my situation, bottom line, a long time ago, I had a conflict of IP addresses, so I made the change to 254. Now, an unusual thing I have is I've got a unique router that hands out the DNS services. You might see a static DNS service down here, or you'll see your router listed there. So one of the things I'm going to talk about next is DNS, or Domain Name Services. And it's how basically people, or I should say computers, talk to other computers on the internet. They know what addresses and what websites are out there, because everything DNS helps you get to the place you want to go. And depending on what DNS server you have assigned to you, you may have, there's public DNS services out there that do a better job of being private and do a better job of being faster. So remember that ipconfig/all gives you the information of the IP address of the physical computer that you're at. And it may also demonstrate what DNS server that you're attached to. I should say pointing to. DNS is very important. It often, like I said, helps you make a better connection. It can be a safer connection. Sometimes you won't be able to edit this value. In particular, I have Comcast's ISP. They actually do not let you edit your DNS setting. In order to do your DNS setting to what you want, you either have to do it physically in the network connection yourself, or you have to put a router between you and the ISP. Now you can edit it locally on your workstation. I'll show you how to do that in just a little bit. There are many what's called public DNS services, and these are just a few of them out there. Google DNS, Cloudflare is one of them, OpenDNS, Quad9 DNS, and what this is there are settings that you put in your network connection to basically say, get your instructions or get your information of where everything's located from this server. Again, you can set this up manually on your network connection, and the information is out there on the OpenDNS website, but I'll show you how to do it here. So I've gone into my network connections on my computer, and I look for the one that's connected right here, and I go into Properties. And what I do is I want to look for the Internet Protocol version 4, or IPv4, and I click there, and I click on Properties. Now most of the time this is set to get your IP address automatically. It picks it up from your router. Also, it picks your DNS services up from your router. Now you can change that and say, no, I want you to use something unique. In this case, I'm going to click that box, and I'm going to choose, I'm just going to put in 1.1.1.1. And then, depending on if your DNS provider has an alternative, you can put a second round. I'm just going to put the 1 in. I'm going to click OK. I'm going to hit Close. And I'm actually still able to, it's not impacting my internet connection, especially if you've done it right. If you put the right DNS entries in there, it will go out to the internet just fine. And many times it will be faster than what you're already using. You may need to play around with the different settings, depending on if they're closer to you or farther away. Try a different one. See if you like a different one. Again, some of them provide some additional privacy settings, some of them additional sensing of, how should I put this correctly? They check and make sure that what you're surfing on is clean. OpenDNS in particular is one of them that actually filters things before it gets to you. For those of you that are more experienced, you can also go up to the OpenDNS settings page. They also have ways to set the OpenDNS settings up in your router itself. Again, that's a little bit more complicated. You can start out with just changing the DNS settings on your local machine. As always, have a great week. This is what I call my maintenance weekend. Anytime this weekend, if you feel comfortable, go ahead and patch if you've not already done so. Remember, the newsletter is out tomorrow. If you are not a Plus member, we've got some special things coming out tomorrow. I highly advise you to sign up. Till next time, this is Susan Bradley for AskWoody.com.